To start in Spanish, so to
Of
introduce
course.
you. Uh, bueno, pues buenos días, buenas tardes. Bienvenidos una vez más a un jueves más de Stop Motion, de Stop Motion Nerds. Ya tenía un tiempo que no continuábamos con estos jueves de entrevistas y de charlas. Y el día de hoy retomamos con una invitada de pues muy alto nivel y quien se convierte en nuestra madrina de nuestras charlas ahora en inglés. El día de hoy nuestra charla será en inglés y tenemos como invitada a Francesca Maxwell, quien pues es directora de arte en numerosos proyectos. Ya ahora estaremos platicando justo con ella para que nos cuente más acerca de su historia. So, thank you again for being here, Francesca.
Thank you, Rulo.
I was telling the people that you're our first guest on English version of Stop Motion Arts. So yes, you're this section in English. So it's an honor for us.
Oh, it's an honor for me, and I apologize for not speaking Spanish, so I will have to speak in English.
No, it's great. It's great. It's
good.
Also a way to connect the audience who loves stop motion with people around the world. So stop motioners try to do this thing to connect people around the world and all the nerds who love stop motion and find the secrets from others. So, well, for start, I want to ask you if you can tell us your story, how you start in the. I don't know if you first start like in the stop motion industry or there's a how was the way to keep you there?
Yeah. Well, I first of all, I just want to say that I'm Italian and I train in Italy in fine art, which is a very traditional way to train and to study art. So that gave me good foundations for all sort of a broader knowledge and understanding of art. And then when I moved to the UK more than 30 years ago now, I started working in theatre as a scenic painter. So I was painting large skies and all sorts of sceneries and background for the shows, for the theatre shows. And I was working at the National Theatre in London. And then we moved to Bristol around 25 years ago, nearly 30 years ago now, actually. No, 28 years ago. And anyway, we working, when we moved to Bristol, I started working at the theatre again as a scenic painter. And at the time, Artman was working, of course, was in Bristol, set up a studio. And there was a lot of stop motion animation in Bristol at the time, several little studios going on, and Aardman was one of the many. And then of course, Nick Park was working there, and they wrote a script with Peter Lord, which was the Chicken Run, the first Chicken Run film. So they set up, at the time, Aardman was just a smaller studio, so they didn't make all their own sets. They just made the smaller sets for the shorts that they did, and the props, and of course they made all the puppets and the characters there. So when it came to make a feature film, they needed a lot more sets and larger sets as well. So they set up a separate company that was making all the sets for Chicken Run. And they needed a painter to paint sceneries and to paint the sets and things. So I happened to be contacted because my husband's cousin was working on it, and they came to see me at the theatre, and I went to talk to them, and they liked my work. So I started working on Chicken Run, which was really, really good and interesting for me because it was a small company at the time. And in a small environment like that, you cannot be specialized. You cannot just do painting. You need to learn to make the props. You need to learn how the technique of stop motion works. And the scale, of course, I was working on large, vast sets in theater, and suddenly I had to work on small set. So I had to buy small brushes. I didn't have any small brushes. So I had to buy small brushes and all the tools to make also the props and the set. So I learned to do carpentry. I learned to do mold making. I learned to do metal work and, to work with different materials, the different materials that we need for stop motion, because everything has to be so strong. As you know, the sets cannot move when they are set up. So we need to work with specific material and in specific way. So I learned all these things, which was great. I was, just working as a painter at the time. And then I started to be the sort of the head painter for a project. And then when we finished on Chicken Run, some of the model makers started working on Tim Burton Corpse Bride in London. So we needed to set up the studios in London. We didn't have a studio yet. So we got together, a few of us, and I was the head painter at the time. And we set up the studios for Corpse Bride and started working on that. So then, I did set dressing as well. And there is much more in sort of painting. So what's happened from when you are moving from a small scale sort of production, relatively small scale like we were on Chicken Run, to a big feature film like Corpse Bride, that was much more complex, and the organization was different, production was different. So it was, Warner Brothers sent us producers down to organize the workshop and to organize the work that we were doing. Then we started to separate the department. So the art department was one, of course, which is run by production designer is running the art department, and then there is an art director, and then each department is slightly different. So we have carpenters, we have model makers, we had metal workers, and we had painter and texture and set dressers. So it tends to be a little bit more specialized because it's more efficient that way. So we already did that partly on Chicken Run, but it was much more, organized in that way on Corpse Bride. So as a painter, as a painting department, we had to do all the finishes and texture as well. So we discovered new materials and new way of working. Our art director was American at the time, so Nelson Lowry. So he brought in new ideas that he was using, has been used in the States before. So I brought in a lot of my experience in theater, which wasn't used very much before in animation or, in television and things like that.
Okay.
So
I think, or I imagine that all this knowledge about the theater way to do the things like tricks in the sets can move really easy to stop motion and works a lot, right? So like hide some things like rigs or something like that. But when the production is going bigger, is these tricks still working on the sets?
Yes, they are. They are, because our sets, the units, the sets in stop motion animation is still a smaller set. It's a small space. Sometimes we have to create the feeling of a large environment, a big landscape, for example, and big skies, and or big houses and things like that. So So that's what we are learning to do in theater. You don't have much space on the stage, so you have to make up houses and building and trees and things like that. So I brought that knowledge and understanding of a three-dimensional space that how can be used, false perspective, and also using cutout of houses. On Paranorman, for example, there's a lot of street scenes. You think all the houses are big built, but actually some of them are just cutouts, photograph of that or other houses, and they are put there, and they look, they've got depth, and they look like a large, vast city, but they're not. So all these kind of things, as you say, they are interconnected, and I use my knowledge a lot about this, of course. In stop motion.
Yeah, that's right. And the first perspective is a really important way to do the things on the stop motion. I see, because help us to create bigger sets and landscapes with less resources, and but also with a beautiful way to see, right? And feel. You said about the paranormal, and also I find these lines that never are really stretched. Also, yes, rare lines to never connect each other, or maybe yes, but in scarves and something like that. And it also works to create this world, and not just for the landscapes. It is also for the characters, and it's a connection between the world and the characters, right? Would you like to tell us how to, as a director of art, build this connection with the characters and the environment?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and it's something I think it's a very important role of the art director to do that. So when it was very interesting, because as we work on Fantastic Mr. on say, for every animation film I work on, the directors have always been very visual people. Tim Burton, Wes Anderson, and then Chris Butler, of course, and Sam on Paranormal. Very visual, like Luis Deleuze, of course, great artists in their own right. And so they have the story, and they also have the character, as directors do. They see the person, the character living in a sort of environment. And our task is to make these environments come to life, to become three-dimensional. So we had the story, and on Paranorman, the story was that his boy, it's as you know, it's can see ghosts. So he wants to be normal, and his family is trying to make him fit in with everybody else's. But actually, he is not a normal boy because he can see the ghosts. And so then it's sort of hiding these things. So there is a jarring, there is a uncomfortable feeling of the character in the environment. So sometimes the character fit in with the environment, and so they have to be absolutely sort of made of the same materials. They have to have the same color schemes. They have to have the same way of interacting with the space. But sometimes they don't. The characters doesn't feel that belongs to the environment, to the world that he's in. So he needs to find his way to fit in. But so the director with the production designer at the time, they decided they wanted to show this in the visual language. So this is a very important thing, that the director with the designers and the art director, they decide the visual language for the film. And so we decided that no lines were going to be parallel, just as you say, no parallel line, no soft lines, all angles everywhere. and the colors were jarring as well. So they started working on the puppet first. So you have your character first, and the puppets were made so they look at an angle. So Norman, for example, he's got one ear bigger than the other, and one arm longer than the other. So it's like he's a seen at a different 3/4 sort of view instead of being straight and balanced. It's not balanced and equal because the story shows him that he's not like that. So, and they choose different kind of material as well to show it, and we did the 3D printing, of course, for the faces. So everything, there was a lot of innovation, a lot of new things that we were working out. But for the entire look of the set, we wanted to be like that with this world, and it's all slightly askew. And my job as an art director on that film was to make sure that the art department at every level, all the props and all the from the technical drawings down to the carpenters, to the painting and texture, everything was keeping that. So the color palette was fixed, and all those lines and things, all the technical drawings for the building and the environment were done by hand, because it's very hard to do it on CAD or Illustrator, to do it with a machine who wants to make everything straight and equal, of course. So it was an incredible work, and with an incredible team of artists on it to give that special feel for it.
Actually, now you mentioned this palette color. I remember someone tell me about Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Wes Anderson says that he wouldn't green on the entry movie. So, but all the team read the script and say, "How it's in the village? It's in it's green. How can we take out the green of the movie? How it works to create this vision of the director?"
That's, again, is very interesting. And working with a director like Wes, he's such a strong visual artist. He's got his look. He's very strict about it in a good way. It's a very creative way. So we need a bit of time. Every time you're working with these sort of strong design lines, you need a bit of time to get your head around. So when I started working on Fantastic Mr. Fox, I was assistant art director, and I did the color palette for Wes. And Wes said, no blue and no green, no cool color, no violet, only warm colors, because the palette of the fox, the animal, it's all warm colors. So yellow, pink, oranges, the browns, yes, but the blues and greens, there's only a nighttime scene when we see the blue sky, because it's sort of dark, really. Couldn't do black, so we had to go without blue. And then the final scene when Fox meets the real wolf, then we have a landscape with a blue sky and green hills, because that is the connection to nature. So Fox is connected to nature, and so it was very hard to work with warm color, because, as you know, warm colors move towards you and cool colors moves away from you. So particularly for the cinematographers to have no blue sky, it meant it was really hard to achieve that sense of depth and distance. So we had these warm skies of pink and like sunset or dawn, and then we painted it like that. We made a color palette, and all our colors were like that. And so in a way, if you're forcing us to with some restriction, then we become very creative within the restriction. But it's also make it easy. These are the colors of the sky. These are the colors of the grass. It's all kind of orange, and and that's it. And after a while, you forget, don't you, when you watch the film?
And I think it's also in this way you can or give a meaning for each color, right?
Yeah.
Like I I I I think on the Guillermo del Toro's movies that always have a special meaning of each color.
Yeah.
So this is part of the production design
Yeah.
to set these meanings and how the importance of the story have this color and
Yeah.
how is the amount of this color in each frame that we want to say the thing that we want to say it because but don't with words, just with the colors on the palette on
Yeah.
the frame, right?
Yeah. For example, on Corpse Bride, Tim Burton wanted to do the film in black and white, but Warner Brothers didn't allow it at the time. He has never been done before, so they didn't want to sort of take the risk in a way to do it. So they asked him to do a gray palette. So again, I mixed the color palette for that film, and I came out with 17 kind of grays. Gray is a great color because it can have a bit of yellow. So I did a bit of, for Victoria's room, it was all a bit pinkish, gray. For Victor's room, is all bluish room, and then the Land of the Dead was very colorful, and the Land of the Living was very gray and dull and beigey and terrible. So we did, but even within the gray, we can add a little bit of this color or that color to make it belong to the character. So they can belong to the character. And other times you choose also the texture, for example. You can choose, say, for the man-made elements of the film, they can be all smooth, and the natural element can be all more texture. So you can choose the color and the texture and the shapes of things according, with a symbol. As a symbol, all our lives are full of symbols, and everything is meaning. So that is the job of the designer and the art director, is to find this language that those are the design sort of main key elements for the film.
Yes, that's awesome. I find this part like another way to tell another story in the
Yeah.
same movie.
Yeah.
So you can read another story.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
there's like a like a key work or like a formula to start working with this triada of director, art director, and cinematographer. It's a team, right?
Yeah.
It's a real special team too, because the image of the movie is born in there. How it works, this triada.
Well, there are many way of seeing it, because if you're working in television or on a series, on dramas, or on a film, or different directors, different way. But just talking about stop motion, because as I say, stop motion is a bit of a world on its own. So as I say, the director are very visual people, and they often have their own character design, so they come with their own character already. So the job of the cinematographer is to get the camera angle, of course, which is a very important part of the storytelling, and which of course the director has already thought about it. An amazing director like Louis Deleuze, of course, he knew exactly how he wanted the camera to tell the stories, of course, and the action of the characters in the space. And he already had the spaces in mind, when I started working with him. So my job was just to think about details. So he has got so much to think about it. And the cinematographer has got to think about all the lighting and the time of day and time of night. So and the different moods than the lighting creates. So they have a lot of work to do. So the job of the production designer or art director is to get all the details out. For example, when I was working on Paranorman, for example, one of the directors is the writer of the story. Chris Butler wrote the script. And there was a secondary character of a gym teacher. There's just a short scenes when she comes out of the house and drop the rubbish in the bin and then comes in. And we had to build the house, and she only opened the door. But I wanted to know if the house was, she bought the house, she inherited the house from her parents. Did she live alone? Did she live with someone? Was she a kind of girly person? She had, curtains on the windows with flowers, or would she had little flower pots outside the door, or would she have concrete, or what kind of person? So I asked Chris, and he said he never thought about it because he just wrote the character as, a secondary character. She had few lines, she was, in the school, and so he never imagined these things. But I come in and I have to create these background for each character to understand how they live and who they are, because as you were saying, we are creating another story into the story and another story into the story. So I needed to know these things. So I sometimes have to make them up, or I talk to the director and check, of course, and they are happy with it, and this is what they thought, and it fits in with the rest of the story or with the rest of. But you have to propose things, so you have to, they don't have time maybe to come up with the story, so I can show them this is an option, this is an option, this is an option, what do you think? Are you happy with all this? So it's all three characters, the cinematographer, as you say, with a different camera angle, he will do the same. You come in with different options of, say, what do you think if the camera is further away instead, or shall we do a close up to the character here? And so there is a lot of this, teamwork and creative work together, which, if you have a director that is open to this conversation, and a director who trusts his, cinematographer and his production designer, then you have a wonderful creative, gestalt. It comes out a wonderful work together, and so it's a wonderful thing. But this is sort of the kind of relationship that is created between these three characters, really.
Okay, wow, that's awesome. It's try to put in the same line all the minds, the three minds, to work together and understand the same and reach the same goals, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Also, in this line, when you start as director, art director, you in charge of a huge team. So this team is also have to be in the same the same line of team.
Yeah.
So, and there's I'm sure a big team with a lot of artists with many different talents.
Yeah.
So how you can first select this group of talent person, and then how can they work on one vision? And yes, how can you create your teamwork?
Well, I think that what I found as my experience both in theater and in stop motion animation film is that I like to choose my team by their attitude more than by their skills and talent. I think because every film is different, as we were talking about. Suddenly you go into doing a Fantastic Mr. Fox, so it doesn't matter if you've painted beautiful painting before on another film. suddenly you have to adapt to Wes Anderson's view and to his limitation for this film in specific and particular. And Corpse Bride had a lot of texture. We had to learn how to do the texture. So for each film, and sometimes for each set, you have to learn again how to do the texture. Are these colors right? Do they look right under the lighting and under the camera? Because again, if the lighting is completely different, suddenly you have to change your color palette for the set to match it with the rest of the film. But there is a filter that make everything go in purple. Then you have to adjust your colors on the set and so on and so forth. So you need a lot of flexibility, a lot of last minute understanding of a problem and problem solving. So you have to solve the problem. So you need people who are prepared to work for someone else's vision. It's not their artwork, it's someone else's artwork. So that's what I tell my team sometimes. I say, you are an artist in your own right. You go home and paint your own things, you sculpt your own things, you do your own work or make your own film. But while you are here, you need to do what the director or what the production designer has decided for the film. And we need to follow those things and then learn and adapt to it. And then we can propose new things. But as I say, you can propose new things if in a way then it's all right for the story. So you still have to keep the story in mind all the time. And there is a lot of trying to get the group together and to talk to each other and to share with their own experience. Someone has used, I found that one color works good for the shading, for example. Someone found that the glue is better to glue their bits. And so you need to find a team that is prepared to work together well. And sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes there is a lot of work and you need to do to work together. And I found that I learned that for me to communicate to them is the most important thing. So say I had a team of painters, for example, Paranorman, and there was a painter who wanted to know exactly about the story. What was that sky meant to be for that bit of the story? But another one wanted just to have an image to copy. She didn't want to know about where he was going, when he was going, what the meaning of it. She didn't want to know anything. So each person, each personality will have a different way of working, and it's my job as the art director to understand what it is and how they work. Someone comes in late, but then he works over lunch, and it's fine by me. Someone it takes time to do things, but then they are done really well. So I give him time to do, that person will take longer, fine, So it needs a lot of flexibility and understanding and respect for each other, really, when you work. But mostly is to all the time motivate your team to see that they are a fundamental part of this project. And each one of them, each individual is very much a key person to make these wonderful things, this wonderful project come together and see the day of light. And so get to the cinema at the end, so it's very important for them to see that they are, important part of the project.
Yes, actually, I think each in stop motion specifically, each frame is like an artwork, but collective artwork. Like have the hand of the animator and a lot of hands-on painters, set buildings, prop makers, and everything is there, and not always is clear. Maybe is out of focus, but it's there, and it's this part of art that of this frame collective, and whole the movie is this thing, like a really collective piece of art.
It
So
is, it is. And we mustn't forget the producers and all the coordinators. So these people who we think are not part of the art creative element, but they are, because they hold it all together. They allow us to communicate and connect. They do all the planning and the scheduling for us, and they time everything, and they hold it all together. So it's their role
yes,
is as important. So yeah.
yes, it's really really important. The producers way, and as you said, this is like a solving problems art.
Yeah.
Like each project is going to be, and I find this like beautiful of the stop motion. Like every project, every set, and every scene, it's going to be a new challenge.
Yeah.
Like maybe you do water a lot of in a lot of ways, but for this scene it's going to be different
Yeah.
because something. So it's a challenge to
Yeah.
affront this moment, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and to solve these problems is sometimes is such a joy. Is very satisfactory.
Yes, the
Yeah.
experimental way and find
Mm.
a result is I think is amazing.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Um, well, taking another way of the talk, I want to um, I want to ask you about how you find the importance of photos of art, and well, first, how can we find this art? Because maybe sometimes we think we haven't the possibility to find art in a museum because it's not near my home or something like that. But I think the art is like everywhere. So how can you tell us uh, how you fit yourself with art, and maybe as can we can do it?
Well, I must say that I was very lucky to be, as I say, born in Italy and surrounded by a lot of lovely art. But I think so are you in Mexico. I think it's
Yeah.
it's a wonderful place, and you can look, first of all, you can look at nature. I mean, nature is the most extraordinary thing, and it's full of art and joy. I see every day in my garden there are new flowers coming out and little plants growing, and some others are decaying, are dying, and I have to prune them. I have to make the garden sort of, all these different plants live together, and so in itself that it's art. And then you're doing cooking your supper, for example. So are you thinking about the different, the vegetables and things, elements that you put together? And I mean, I had wonderful meals in Mexico, so you know about it. So that is a very creative job, isn't it? Just putting together colors and shapes and the way you cut your vegetables and things, and how you eat it, and you share it with friends, and so wonderful elements, and all these things are art, really. And when I was training, I train as I was going to art school, but I also train as a apprentice to a painter and an etcher, in a way, the traditional way. I started when I was 14 to go to his studio and work with him and help him, cleaning the studio and washing brushes. And we used to go out and find bits of dry flowers that we can draw, and we make lunch together. And so everything, he taught me that to be an artist is a way of being. You are always an artist. Is the way you are living and the way you are putting things together in your house, what you're wearing, and everything is being with that point of view of the artist. How are things they're joyful, they're happy, they're restful, they're exciting, all these things creating all these emotions in us. They surround us all the time. So
Yes, you said something that, well, everything was wonderful, but is not just to train our eyes. It's like to feel
feeling,
the things,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Maybe just the art is not like the way the things going to look, but it's important, I think. Uh, but it's how they make you feel, right?
yes,
So as you said, when you're going to uh, cook your meal and put some colors and
yeah,
flavors, and it's you're doing that thinking in how it's going to taste,
yes,
and it's like the same on the visual arts, right? Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
can put some lines and textures and colors, trying to or try to understand how it's going to make you feel someone
yeah.
or make you feel, right?
Yes, yeah. It's not just an intellectual exercise, and it's not just from a scientific point of view, but it's an emotional response first, and then you can try to analyze it intellectually and say, okay, I can do, you know. I can think about composition, and I can say there are some principle of composition that I can use, or there are some principle of color and color schemes and color theory that I can use. But all these theory and these theories, they come after the practice. So most of these things thought have come from artists after they've experienced it and they've done it for many years, or hundreds of years, or um, uh, so they these things have come out of experience of the art and the artist, but they are first of all an emotional response, for sure.
Great. That's awesome. It's as you said, not an scientific method. It's like a
Yeah,
feeling thing.
yeah,
Um, well, I think that the time is right now. So also, I want to talk about well, the importance of this uh, feeding of art, and this like a training way to connect ideas and concepts, and how to put in on the film. Um, it's not like something that you can do it by yourself. Maybe yes, but it's going to take a lot of time.
mm,
So now you are part of a program called Stomo Lab, program in Poland, which by Momakin.
hmm,
And there's one of, I think, the most important markets of stop motion, the the stop mo lab on the Animarket Festival. So now you're part of the mentors of
yeah,
this program. I take the stop mo lab the last year, uh, and there was more like uh, a lot of master classes.
mm,
Uh, we have like 3 classes per week, and there's a lot of information. We have a lot of uh, notebooks full of these things, and but now I know that it's going to have a new way to do the things, not
yeah.
just the master classes. It's also a mentoring. Could you tell us how it's going to work, this thing?
Yes, we thought, with the Momakin team, which is extraordinary and amazing to have organized all this work. Every year, I think they adapt and change things according to what's the response of people and the participants is. So we found that we are going to have 5 sort of big master classes starting from July. July the 3rd will be my first one. And then there will be 5 days in October in Poland. And then we will have the last final masterclass after in November. So throughout, July we'll have 2 masterclasses, then August 1, the September 1, then we will have the time together in Poland, and then the final masterclass. So that throughout this, what's happening is that I will sort of talk and explain from the beginning from the storytelling sort of part of the filmmaking. How is the process of the filmmaking, and how the visual language works. So we will talk about these principles of composition and color and all these things, and how to use them to our advantage. And then how we put them into practice. And then I will use examples of the films I work on, of course, and then I will give a little task for each to each participant to do between those meetings. And then I will be available for them to come back to me and talk to me and ask me question about it. So we'll be, during this time, we can work on them making their own visual project, starting from a story to organize it and complete, sort of ready to go into production, ready to start, with a team to make everything, all the elements. So
is necessary that people have a project on mind to do these exercises, or they can do it on the way?
Yeah, no, we can work it out together. It doesn't have to be that they already come with an idea. I keep it open because often they have many ideas already. So, or a project that they would like to work on, or something that is already been done, for example, and they want to do their own version of it. So that's all right. So they can bring their own stories and their own characters, or we can make up a story and a character as at the beginning of the sessions, and then work on that. So it's open.
That's great. That's a real beautiful program. I think it's and now it sounds like a huge mentoring process with guide and more practical, I think. So
yeah.
It sounds great. I want to take it again, but I couldn't. So, but we are here to tell people that there's in time to apply for the program and have the opportunity to have these kind of mentors like Francesca. And also there's our more talented people there guiding
Indeed.
on all the program. Stop Lab combo is closing this Sunday.
Yeah,
Sunday 25. So we have to put the link to apply on the
on the screen.
Not on the screen, on the comments.
On the comments, yes.
Like good a idea. Link, they can.
So they can get it
directly. Yeah. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, Francesca. I think we have a lot of more things to talk. I really appreciate to start this version in English with you. Hope sometimes we can repeat the talk and maybe with more visuals.
Yeah,
it will be great.
For sure. Yeah.
But for now, I think is everything. Something that you want to add?
No, I think we talk about a lot of interesting aspects of it. So yeah, thank you so much, Rolo. It's been really good to be here, and I hope it was clear enough, my English, for our audience.
Yes, I think yes, it is going to be with subtitles for I think the next week. So thank you again for be here and to share all your knowledge. It's a pleasure have this interview with you. And well, for everybody, pues bueno, terminamos esta charla con Francesca. Y sigan muy al pendientes, el link para aplicar en Stopmolab estará en los comentarios para que ustedes puedan aplicar directamente. Y nos vemos próximamente en otra charla más de Stop Motion Nerds. Thank you, Francesca. See you.
My pleasure.
Then.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye. Bye.